Okay, we're gonna try this again. Something happened. The video just stopped. I think I have enough power. Yeah, I have enough power, so I don't know what's going on with this YouTube um, recorder thing. Whatever. Um, if not, I'll go on Facebook, YouTube. Um, but I just seen the trailer to this new Karate Kid video. And I'm very, very interested in this. And we see an actual antagonist become a protagonist, which is something that's not seen in much, let alone um, movies and literature. Sometimes you see it, but which is so interesting. We see Daniel LaRusso, who is actually very wealthy now. He's not a poor chap. He, as he was in the original Karate Kid, uh, he was very, very poor. They just moved to the valley. Very, very poor. And the valley at that time was very wealthy. I lived in the valley actually, in Burbank for several years, and beautiful weather. But you're right, it is for the people who are impoverished and have much money. I guess you could live in North Hollywood, which is, and there's other parts of the valley that aren't too nice. But where he lived was very, actually very nice. Um, so, however, I would imagine some of the houses are dated now, but it's the San Fernando Valley is a very beautiful area in the United States. Um, Johnny was very wealthy, as what as we know. Johnny was very wealthy. We know the last time we hear Johnny, he just got beat up by Crease, and him and his friends were laid out, sprawled out in a parking lot. So what we don't know is really, what happened to Johnny. What I could tell you is several things happened throughout the United States since 1984. One, I remember growing up, my father was laid off for several weeks due to the auto cry. There's something wrong with the auto industry. I don't know if they were producing enough, but my father was laid off for several weeks. I remember growing up. And people lost their jobs. Even the movie Gung Ho and also the movie Mr. Mom, which are both Michael Keaton movies, reflected this, especially in the Midwest, Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland. Um, I would imagine Pittsburgh as well, dealing with its steel plants. And so we know this happened throughout the Midwest, probably areas of Chicago as well, especially Great Lakes region. I'm a Great Lake kid. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio. Um, so yeah, it was an auto, and coming from a blue collar city like Toledo, a city that's very similar to Detroit in nature, is very similar to Cleveland in nature, and Pittsburgh in nature. You do see these things happen, and in these auto industries. So we don't know what happened to Johnny parents. We don't know if they lost all their money. We don't know that they just disowned him after just rebellion in college or whatnot. We don't even know if he made it to college. That is a very crucial point in your life between 16 and 18 to really develop who you are. And usually, those people who are really strong, they do progress further and they do develop. And they do, even through their adversities, they do grow in that. We don't know Johnny's character, but we know this, that looking at this latest preview, he seems to be like a Mr. Miyagi character. So what happened to Johnny was he seen a kid being picked on, and he basically beat the dudes down in the parking lot. And I'm not saying we hit teenagers or this or that. Johnny's 40 years old, but we have to understand what happened with Mr. Miyagi. Daniel comes and say, "I heard you beat up some teenagers last night." Well, it was the same thing with Mr. Miyagi when Mr. Miyagi went into Cobra Kai, and he said, "I heard you jump my students last night." He gave them a licking, dude. They're all busted up, laying on the ground. And like I said, I'm not saying we should do those things, but obviously Johnny was protecting this kid, and he was raising up these group of kids, these group of nobodies, to be something. So basically, Johnny is the Mr. Miyagi story. We don't know what happened to this man. This man could have got really wealthy as well, and could have lost it all and was in this 2-bit apartment because he ain't have nowhere to go. And they just said, so we don't know Johnny's story. I know this. I was talking to my wife about this. How does this apply to uh, how does this apply to Torah? How does this apply to us in Judaism as just people ethically? We don't know what has happened to um, our villains. We've all had villains growing up, and we don't know what for the most part we don't know what has happened to them to this point in their life. We could just assume that our villain is doing well like us, or our villain is doing terrible, or our villain is suffering. We have to understand people are people, and people suffer, and people are well. And what we have to do is have a heart for why are they doing it. And it might be something they explore in the series. But what we have seen is this kid was getting beat up, and Johnny took initiative and saved this kid. And it was kind of maybe an anti-hero move as well, because he fell on his car. He's like, "Hey man, don't mess up my car," and so we have to consider our enemy. We have to love our enemy. We have to love our neighbor, if they're our enemy or not. If they're our best friend or if they're our enemy, we have to just love them. And love is an action. And what's love? Really treat your neighbor as yourself. That's what love is. And um, so we have to consider all those people who bullied us or done us wrong. This could be their moment of redemption, per se, a lack of a better term. I don't know any other term to use other than redemption. Um, and why is it their redemption? Because they're doing something that they were absolute, somewhat to seem that they were against. So, in a sense, this is a redemption process, most likely for Johnny in this film or this television series. He does need to be redeemed, and through his hardships, our Torah teaches that sometimes through our hardships is the actual redemption process of not having enough, or going through absolute suffering, or going through pain. This is in a sense our redemption. And this could be the same for Johnny. He woke up on the floor. This could have been his redemption, his suffering. And what you do with your suffering is the object of your salvation. If you suffer and you persevere through your suffering, then there's growth, and then I would say the redemption act actually happens there, through your suffering and what you do with your suffering. So obviously Daniel, through his suffering, he became very wealthy, but he never let go of the past, even though they know what was wrong. We know what was wrong, and this guy was bullied. So I'll let you guys go. I'll come back. I think we're running out of time. So I got to upload this video and then make another one, part 2 of this. All right, talk to you guys soon.